Let me just open it up to you guys real quick, and if there are any volunteers who want to share what they talked about, any volunteers who want to talk about what you want to accomplish in this summit here today, if any volunteers. If there's one thing that you want to take away from this day here at the White House, what would it be? Go ahead.
My name is Natali Takor. I'm from NYU. I'd love to take away the Obama administration's takes on students in service, especially international students,
Okay.
and what we can do on campus and off campus to help promote that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sure. Where's June? June?
Hi, I'm June. I'm representing COSU, the Asian American Student Union. And I want to get out of this, like, meeting other students who want to continue doing community work past, like, beyond their own campus.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Yep.
Hi, I'm Joya Ahmed from Columbia University. I'm most interested in figuring out how current Asian Americans can help other students who are less ingrained in the American culture to bridge generational and cultural gaps and see what we can do in a mentoring community aspect.
Sure. Thank you. Yep.
My name is Josephine Chu. I'm from American University. I work at Chinese Language Immersion School here in DC, so I'm interested in how we can bring Asian American culture to people.
Great. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Lavinia Damopiao, and I'm from the University of Utah.
Sure.
And I'm interested in finding out more about what kind of resources are available for Pacific Islanders
Great.
and what the Obama administration is planning to do as far as Pacific Islanders.
Sure. Yep.
Anna Fong. I'm from Rutgers University. I think the one thing that I want to take away from this is to get more Asian American students empowered, so that we can bring forth an Asian American studies at Rutgers specifically.
Absolutely. We've got our sisters representing today. Go ahead.
Hi.
My name's Juliet.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'll go first.
Right here in the front, and then we'll go up back there after that.
Okay.
Sure.
Hi everyone. My name is Happy Yang. I'm from Balboa High School, San Francisco. The most important thing I want to get out here is I want to know what kind of work the federal government is doing to promote civic engagement among AAPI communities, and I hope to bring some resources back to my community.
Sure. Thank you. In the back.
My name is Juliet Shen. I'm from SUNY Albany. And I'm mostly here because Asian Americans are the most bullied in schools, and I want to see how we can combat that and kind of work towards decreasing the amount of harassment and racism in today's society.
Thank you. Where are the brothers at? Any guys? Yep.
Ben Rowe, I'm from GW. One thing that I'm trying to get out of this place is how we can bring together a fragmented society where different ethnicities stick together. Being Korean is especially really hard with that.
Sure. Thank you. Just at a show of hands, who here is in college right now? Wow. How about high school students? There you go, representing. Who is a leader on their campus? Yep. Right on. Great. So when we put this briefing together, it was important for us to ensure that we were inviting leaders on campuses across this country. And so all of you that are here today were invited for a purpose, and that is to talk about the issues that are pertinent to you on your campuses that your fellow students are talking about, and to ensure that when this briefing is done, that you'll go back to your campuses to talk about what this administration is doing, and to become a partner of this administration as we continue to push our agenda forward. So we're very honored to have you here at the White House. I know for many of you, I can't express how much pride I have in putting this event together. I would say that of all the events that I've done so far, this is the one that I'm most proud of. Why? Because I see a lot of myself in all of you. It was not too long ago that I was a shy kid in high school and middle school. True story, when I was in 4th grade, instead of having the courage to go up to my teacher and ask her to go to the bathroom, I would tell my friends, I had to go to the bathroom, and she would go up to Miss Metzger and say, Eddie has to go to the bathroom. And she would go back to my friend and say, he could go ahead and do that. I was a very shy kid. I kept my head down. I made sure to get the good grades in school and, listen to my parents. I was pretty much that angelic kid that any parents could ask for. And I know they're probably watching this now, and they would confirm that with you in a heartbeat. But there was a point in my college career when I realized that it's not enough for us to sit back and stay silent, all right? That we as students have a mission, that we have a responsibility to go out and be a voice for our community, right? Because if we're not going to do it, then very few people out there will, right? Especially amongst our community, this young population in the Asian American community. It's very important for us to go and be a voice. And so I'm very honored to be here as the Office of Public Engagement Liaison to the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. I'm very excited to welcome you all here today. And my goal is threefold, or my challenge to you is threefold. One is to listen. For this briefing, we've invited some of the most active, dynamic, powerful speakers here in this White House to come and listen to you and your stories, and also to tell you about what we're doing at the White House for the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. So for this whole day, we ask that you listen and that you take in that information, because this is perhaps for many of us a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I want to make sure that you make the most of it. The second challenge that I have for you is to be heard. Some of you guys might be like myself, kind of keeping your head down, being, not really speaking up. But today I ask you to really put yourself out there. Make your stories known. All of you are invited for a purpose and for a reason. And we want to listen to what your students, your fellow classmates are going through. And it's important for you to be a voice for them. And the final challenge that I have for you is to be active. This is just the beginning of the conversation. When you go back to your campuses, we're going to be staying in touch with you. We're going to keep you accountable. And we're going to ask you to continue to partner with us, to continue to engage your fellow classmates, your neighborhoods, your campuses. And so with that, I'm very excited about the program that we have in store for us. In the morning, you're going to be listening to a series of speakers and panelists. We're going to be talking about the different issues that this administration addresses on a day-to-day basis. You'll also hear a set of panelists from different agencies talking about their experiences as they made their way to the federal government. You'll hear also about representatives from different offices talking about why this community is so important and what this administration has accomplished over the last 3 years. In the afternoon, we'll also be breaking out into different sessions where you'll be able to share your own stories, interact with your peers, and talk about solutions. How can we, as this administration, better serve you? We believe that you have the most at stake here today, right? This is your future, and you are our future leaders. And so that's why this is so important for you to continue to speak out and to engage each other. And so with that, let me turn it over to our first speaker today. He happens to be my boss, so I want to make sure that you're on your best behavior, especially while he's here. But he is the director of the Office of Public Engagements. And his job is to be the eyes and the ears of this administration, to listen to what's going on in our communities, and to make sure that your concerns and your thoughts are heard here at the administration. He knows as much as I do how important this community is, how important the young American community is, and that's why he's made it a huge priority in this office to have staff representing them. And so with that, actually before I turn it over to him, let me also say that for my first day here, it's been my goal to make sure that his Twitter following, John Carson 44, is very well represented amongst the Asian American population. So I know that many of you are some of the most engaged people in our country, especially on social media. So I want to challenge you today, by the end of today, to follow him and also send him a tweet, and we'll make sure that he remembers us. But with that, let me turn it over to Mr. John Carson. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the White House. Who here is this your first time to the White House? All right. Well, I'm sure somewhere in this crowd, a lot of you in this crowd, will one day have the opportunity to be on this side of the podium and get to be a part of what we do here every day. And we have a lot of different people here at the White House, but all of you here today, young leaders across this country, to me, it's the most exciting opportunity I get to talk with people. And quite frankly, of all the groups that we work with, of all the stakeholder areas, the young people in this country What I want to talk to you briefly about today is to make sure you understand the incredibly important role you have to play, not just for your own community, your own generation, but for this whole country, and the unbelievable change that you're already making right now. I really want to expand on Eddie's third challenge to all of you, to take back what you learned here today, what you saw today, those of you here in the audience, those of you watching online. Talk about your experience here today. When you get home, tweet about it. You can certainly tweet me, at JohnCarson44. Blog about it, write about it. Stop people in the street and talk about it. We need people to understand that they not only can, but they have an obligation to be a part of civil society, be a part of civic engagement, be a part of this policy process. And so I want to just give you 3 examples to make sure you understand how incredibly important your role in engaging people with the federal government is. You know, I think sometimes people hear about what's going on here in Washington at Capitol Hill, here at the White House, and they think it's like some sort of bad reality TV show. You know, it doesn't really affect them, and they can't really affect it. But I want you to know that the decisions that are made here affect people's lives every single day, and I want to tell you a couple stories about the incredibly important role you can play in connecting people to being partners with the federal government. So who's heard of the Affordable Care Act? You heard about that? Now, how many of you are under 26? Okay, now how many of your peers know that because of the fight we fought, the president and all of your help to get the Affordable Care Act passed, what do people 26 and under get to do now? Stay on your parents' insurance. So, for all the stories that have been written about that fight for health care reform, for all the commentary on cable news, do you know the #1 way that either people under 26 or their parents find out about this fact that they can make sure they're still covered? It's one student sitting next to another at the college cafeteria. It's one mom sitting next to another at a basketball game saying, I just got my 22-year-old on my insurance when she graduated college. Did you make sure you did yours? Those conversations, connecting people to what the federal government is doing for them, whether it be introducing someone, did you know, I know you want to be an entrepreneur, have you heard of the Small Business Administration? Did you know they've got an office here in San Diego? Those one-on-one, we're surrounded by information right now, right? Theoretically, anything you'd want to know about the federal government, you could get in one Google click. Well, we're surrounded by that information. These personal conversations are still the #1 way people find out how they can partner with the federal government and take advantage of how it can help lift people up, how it can make your life better. The second story I want to tell you is you hear about these budget fights and other things here in Washington and I think a lot of people think, there's nothing I can really do about that. Well, let me tell you a story. Who here has heard of either Teach for America or AmeriCorps? Everybody's heard of that, right? Well, now, who here knows what CNCS is, the Corporation for National and Community Service? A lot less of you. So when the Republican, and this shouldn't be, I don't want to sound partisan, but when one side makes a policy choice, I'm just stating the facts. When the Republicans in Congress put out their budget for what they think we should spend money on, they said we're going to not give a haircut, not trim a little bit, but we are going to eliminate the Corporation for National and Community Service. Well, what a lot of people don't know is that's where all the money for AmeriCorps comes from. That's where the federal part of AmeriCorps comes from. And I have to tell you, I think sometimes people, again, think in those budget debates, it's Speaker Boehner and the Republicans on one side of the table saying we don't want government, and the president on the other side saying, yes, we do. It is way more complicated than that. It's 800 separate fights. How much will we spend on housing? What are we going to do on these policy issues? And what Eddie and I and the rest of the team get to see here is that the strength of the coalitions that are built on either side of those fights is what determines the outcome. So let's go back to AmeriCorps and Teach for America. When you're trying to say we should eliminate some random federal agency nobody's ever heard of, that can sometimes be a winning message. But when the question is, Congressman, do you think we should get rid of the Habitat for Humanity volunteers here in San Diego? Do you think we should no longer have Teach for America here in Philadelphia? That's a different question, and it got a different result. And young people who were a part of AmeriCorps, who were part of Teach for America, who were a part of service in their community, they organized, they rallied, they made this clear. They just explained what the choice was. And you know what happened? They won. We protected the AmeriCorps budget. We protected national service in this country. And that was young people like yourself coming together, being smart about it. You know, my view of things is if you're passionate about something, but you're not doing anything about it, or you're not organized, then you might as well not even be passionate. But that is not what happened this last year. Young people came together. So that's the challenge that I have to all of you. I want you to tell people that story. Not just when you go back and you blog about it, you write about it, not just so that you'll share the specific information with people. You know, you have an amazing set of people coming by here today, and you're going to hear very concrete things that you're going to think, oh my gosh, there's this nonprofit in my hometown. I'm going to make sure they know about that program over at the Department of Labor. I want you to share that information. But beyond that, I want you to tell the story of being here, being at the White House, to connect with those people just like yourself all across this country who are thinking that they can't have a voice in this, that they can't be a part of it. When they see a leader like yourself was here at the White House, was part of these discussions, was not just sitting and listening, but back and forth with the team, they're going to be inspired to be a part of it as well. Now, specifically on Asian American Pacific Islander issues, it is an issue this president knows personally. He has a connection to this community, and it's an issue and an emphasis that we have really taken to heart in this administration. And to speak to that, you know, it's one thing to just say that, but it's another thing to actually put a team in place who are working on these issues every single day. And for this community, we have made that commitment of not just our thoughts and our words, but a team that's working day in and day out with us here at the White House, with Eddie, and it's led by our next speaker. And so I really want, when Kieran comes up here to talk to you about the AAPI initiative, I want you to understand that is proof of the commitment this administration has made, and it is a resource and a team that in every policy discussion here at the White House and every decision that it's made, Kieran and her team at the AAPI initiative have you in mind, are your representatives, and have made an incredible difference in everything that we've been able to get done. So with that, I'd like to welcome up Kieran.
How's everyone doing? Yeah? First of all, I wanted to recognize John Carson. He's truly a great guy, and I think one thing that he didn't emphasize that I wanted to make note of is that he really has opened the doors of the White House to everyone, to all walks of life, and has really made the White House the people's house. So, you know, I think it's important to recognize the fact that there's so many different groups that have come through the White House, including significant numbers of the Asian American Pacific Islander community, to talk about issues that matter to us and that the president cares deeply about. I also want to recognize Eddie Lee, who is, well, really, I want to give him a shout out. And I know my stepkids would be like, don't try to act cool and say shout out and this kind of thing, but I really do think he deserves a serious shout out. Eddie has been working with the initiative since really the very beginning, when I first came to take on this position as executive director of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders more than 2 years ago. And he came into my office and he sat down, it was like the second week, and he said, you know, I really want to get involved in helping the Asian American community. And I even heard about Eddie even before I got there, because he had come with his boss at that time, Secretary Duncan, to the White House when the president signed the executive order that created both the initiative and the commission. And with that initiative, now you see Eddie as the point person for the AAPI community in the White House. And I have to tell you, one of the first things that he wanted to do when he got into this position was to bring all of you here and to recognize and to emphasize the importance of AAPI youth. And so I want to recognize Eddie for everything that he's done and a lot of initiative. And I think he represents a lot of what all of us can be, even at a very young age. And it's very heartening to hear his story about being the shy Asian kid in school. So he's definitely not that anymore. I also wanted to recognize Angelo, who is here in the audience. Angela, you want to raise your hand? Another young, up-and-coming individual on our staff who has done a lot of work here for this event today. I'd like to even recognize all the interns and staff from the White House Initiative. Could you guys stand or raise your hand? So people can. So I want to make a point of introducing yourself, meeting a lot of these folks. We have our interns, some of our staff. More folks will be joining us later in the afternoon. Both Eddie and Angelo, some of the nicest guys in the world. So who says you can't be nice and successful, right? And so, and we really want to thank them for all the hard work that they've done. So I'm actually very envious of all of you sitting in the audience. It was about 20 years ago that I was a junior in college. And, you know, I really wish I'd gotten that invitation to the White House to be where you are, talking about federal policies and programs that benefit my community. And I want to thank you for being here, for being a leader, a believer, and a doer. You know, at the time when I was a junior I was actually a junior at Spelman College, an historically black college for women in Atlanta, Georgia. And I have to admit, at that time, I wasn't as politically active as a lot of you. In fact, I was probably more into hanging out with my friends and going to parties, and which is interesting now that I can't stay up past 10:30 at night. So that's what 20 years later will do to you. But, you know, looking back and realizing, you know, all that socializing, you know, I think a part of that was really just trying to fit in and trying to figure out my space. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and this is back in the 70s and 80s, where there were very few Asian Americans living in the South. Do we have any folks from the South? See, we're always very few in the audience, right? But we're an up-and-coming group of folks, the growing population in the South. And I think, you know, a part of that experience was trying to figure out where I belong. And, you know, one thing that I think was my guiding light that really connected me was the work I did on behalf of marginalized communities. And that really served as my guiding light for what I wanted to do. You know, I figured that if you know, that I really couldn't go wrong with doing work in marginalized communities or for low-income communities, or even preserving and enforcing civil rights laws, that was going to be, you know, something that was going to keep me on track. And no matter where, as I was trying to figure out my way in this world, that it was important to be able to do things on behalf of whether it was my community or other communities. So I'm gonna show you something. I probably shouldn't be doing this on not really national TV, but White House live stream. But I have this tattoo, and I got this tattoo in memory of my brother. He took his life about 13 years ago. He was a college student. And you know, he suffered from depression and anxiety. He had a hard time fitting in and really struggled to finish college and try to figure out what he wanted to do in his life. And I remember he used to say to me all the time, you know, I look at you and you're being able to do all these, you know, really interesting things. And you know, it really would break my heart to have those kinds of conversations with him. And you know, my point in sharing that with you is, no matter the kind of exterior of all these people you see coming through the White House, or in your universities, or in these big businesses, we all have our own story, right? We all have our own motivation of why we do the things that we do. And that makes us real and human. So, you know, I just want to remind you, and I remind myself every day with, you know, putting something on, you know, that's so visible that I can look down to as my guiding star, is that, you know, whatever that motivation is, like, turn it into something really positive, right? Whatever struggles and challenges and frustrations that I know we all go through, you know, to do something positive, to do it on behalf of others. So I want to thank you again for being here, because I know everyone has their own individual story of why they're involved and why they're here. I wanted to take just a few minutes to share a little bit with you about the initiative and the commission, why we exist and why we came together to really work hard on behalf of the AAPI community. So how many folks have heard about the White House Initiative and the President's Advisory Commission? So a few folks have, okay. So the mission of the initiative and the President's Advisory Commission is pretty simple and fundamental: to improve the quality of life for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who remain underserved in our country. That's it. To serve those who, for some reason, have not been able to take advantage of the resources and services and protections that this federal government has to offer. We literally serve as ambassadors to the community. We listen to what you have to say about your everyday needs and concerns, like we are doing today, and we share these ideas with about 20 federal agencies to see what resources are available to help improve your lives, especially during these tough economic times. So over the last 2 years that I've been in this position, we have hosted over 200 events in 23 states, in the District of Columbia, in the Pacific Islands, in 50 cities, and touched 22,000 people. And we've made significant progress in addressing the lack of data and research that are needed to document more accurately the needs of the AAPI community, improving language access in federal programs like our support to Southeast Asian fishermen in the Gulf during the Gulf oil spill, preventing bullying and harassment of Asian American and Pacific Islander students that we know is happening in schools and on campuses across the country, working to ensure a toxic-free environment for nail salon workers, many of whom are Southeast Asian, Vietnamese, Korean, women and men who work very long hours in unsafe conditions. Addressing health disparities like hepatitis B, for which actually Asian Americans account for 50% of all those cases. That's almost 2 million people. Promoting college affordability and access through AAPI serving institutions and other education programs, and promoting the immigrant integration of new Americans and diversity in federal employment. So those are a lot of issues that we have been working on for the past couple of years that are priorities for this president and this administration. And today you're going to hear from a number of speakers who are going to go in depth on from consumer protection, entrepreneurship, labor, international affairs, civil rights, immigration, college access, and affordability. So, you know, one thing that I think folks don't realize is that APIs are the fastest growing racial category in this country. Did you know that? Who knew that? Who knew that we are on a fast path in our population? These changes, especially in the tough economic times, create an urgent need to understand the everyday pressing problems facing AAPIs. And that's why the president established the initiative, in order to reflect this growth and to make sure that we had a solid team in place to address these changes and also the challenges that still exist. So for every Asian American spelling bee champion, or scholar, or engineer, or lawyer, we know that there are several others, such as small business owners, who run laundromats, restaurants, gas stations, hotels and motels across this country, and we know that there are several other AAPI students who are struggling to stay in school, working full-time, and raising a family. So I know it's a little bit early in the morning, and I wanted to actually do this exercise to show the breadth and depth of the work that we do at the initiative and the commission and administration that touch all of us. So I'm hoping this experiment works, and it's going to require you to kind of put your papers down, because I'm going to ask you to get out of your seats. So Here, not yet. Don't get out yet. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. If it applies to you, I want you to stand up, and I want you to stay standing, okay? If more than one question applies to you, raise your right arm, then your left arm, raise a foot. But the key is we need to have an accurate survey, so I need you to kind of be really focused, okay? All right, here we go. Is everybody ready? Stand if you are the first person in your family to attend or graduate from college. Wow. Stand or raise your arms or legs if you have attended or are attending a community college. Past, yeah, past, or don't roll the eyes. And stand or do raise hands or whatever if you currently owe or will owe more than $20,000 in student debt. And I really want to encourage the people on live stream to also participate. We'll be keeping track. Stand or raise your arms or legs if you or someone you know has been bullied or harassed at school because of your ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation. I wish you guys could see what I see right here. It's pretty amazing. The entire room is standing up, or arms up. Okay, we're still moving, so I don't know if you're running out of body parts. Does someone in your family own or run a small business that has struggled in this recession? Do you or someone in your family go without health insurance? Put the legs up or jump. I need to see some jumping. This is a very accurate assessment. Have you ever had to provide interpretation or translation for your parents or other family members to access services that were only in English? Are we jumping? Are we on one leg? And the final question, do you worry about your future? And the whole room is jumping. All right. Okay, good job, everyone. So my point here is all these issues that I've just talked about are things that we are working on, that the administration is working on, that the president cares deeply about, and they affect our lives in very intimate ways. And that is why the initiative exists. So over the past 2 years, we've created this great team to meet these demands, to work on a range of issues. And, you know, I say this with all sincerity, like we're only as good as the level of participation and engagement we get from all of you. So we need you to be a part of this effort. I mean, I think Eddie, when he laid out those 3 goals and what we wanted from all of you, I mean, it was with all sincerity that we cannot do this without you. So as student leaders and young workers, you are very important members of our community. You're, I would say, pretty essential to what we're trying to do. You know, there are folks in your schools who look up to you. There are professors and family members who are very proud of you. And the work that we do today can only endure if you all pick up after us, take on the mantle. So who's going to be in my position when I leave? Hopefully one of you all. So I leave you with this important challenge, which we've talked about and we will continue to talk about over and over again. Partner with us. We're going to be talking about the opportunity to hold events on your campuses, roundtables, at your schools. We want you to invite us to be a part of the conversations that are happening on campus. Act on the issues that you hear about today. Challenge us. If we're not doing something that we should be doing, seriously, challenge us. Apply for an internship with us or with the White House or with any other federal agency. You know we're all trying to be very savvy on social media. So we have our Twitter accounts, Facebook. I even personally have a Twitter account. So I can't say I'm like really good at it, but I'm trying to get a lot better. So you can encourage me with tweeting me and telling me I need to get my act together, right? So anyway, I'm going to end with, I think we need to get this briefing started. Flashback to my 20 years ago. It's really, it's been wonderful. I'm looking forward to today. I hope you guys are excited. I think I actually do have the honor of introducing our next, I'm going to go back to you. Okay, so, all right, welcome to the White House, the People's House. Really take that and believe that. This is your place, and I look forward to the conversations for the rest of the day. Take care.
Thank you, Kieran. Before we move on to our next speaker, I want to actually keep Kieran up here for a couple minutes, because I know that in our surveys to all of you, one of the biggest questions you had was about what this administration is doing for the issues that matter to you. Real quick, a lot of you guys picked up this document out there, and this lists out most of the accomplishments over the last 3 years on behalf of this administration. And a lot of these accomplishments are mostly in part to Kieran Ahuja and her leadership with the White House Initiative on APIs and her staff. And so we have such an honor to have her in our corner, and we're very lucky to have her on working for this community. I also want to note that the folks that are watching online, we'll allow you to participate as well by using Twitter. If you guys use the hashtag AAPIWH, you can ask us questions via Twitter, and we'll be sure to include as many of those as we can over the course of the day. And so with that, I want to invite you all to these microphones on the side over here. If you guys have questions for Kieran, for us about what this administration is doing for AAPI communities, we want to invite you up to ask those questions. And while you guys are frantically running towards the microphones, let me also just kind of
read. Even comments.
Yeah, or comments,
right.
Or your stories.
Yeah.
Let me just reiterate why this is so important. Kieran mentioned this earlier, John did as well, and that is that we are in a very crucial moment in our community and in our history. We're at a point where Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are more bullied than any other community out there. Amongst young people under the age of 25 or 26, the unemployment rate is at 13.9%, which is an unprecedentedly high number. Right? And so it's important for us to continue to engage you all and hear solutions not only from us here in the Beltway, but from all of you, because you know these issues better than most people over here, because you see it on a day-to-day basis. And so we want to hear your comments, your questions. I know if you guys are not really as excited about standing up, then you can ask your question. Okay. Sure. Why don't we make our way to the mics just so that folks online can watch and listen?
Hi, my name's Tina Yoon, and I'm a consultant here in Washington, D.C. I work with some Asian American organizations, and I'm much older than most of you here, but I recently read an article about how Asian Americans, when they apply to college now, they're choosing not to identify themselves as Asian Americans, and my children are still quite young, but I think about what impact does that have for the community as a whole. Why is it that people feel like they really can't do this? And wondering what the administration is doing to address this issue.
Sure.
I saw that same article. How many folks had read that article? Oh, gosh. Wow. And those on live stream, I'm sure, as well. So I'm curious, are folks have experienced that themselves? Or I don't know if you want to necessarily, you can shake your head, not necessarily admit it, but here's the interesting thing, and I think we need to flip this on its head. In fact, the largest growth that we've seen of the participation of Asian American Pacific Islander students in higher ed has been in community colleges. About half of all our students are of Asian American Pacific Islander descent are in community colleges. So I think a part of that is really changing the equation, right? And the fact is, the reality is that most of our young folks are not in four-year private institutions. And they are, like many other students in this country, struggling with the affordability of college, of getting into school, And I think that's really important. And so, I think, that's something that we work on here at the initiative is dispelling the model minority myth. And to show that there are some serious challenges, education disparities. In fact, you're going to hear later this afternoon or later this morning about a program focused on AAPI serving institutions called Onapeesees. Who's heard of Onapeesees? Is anyone from an Onapeesee? Okay, so you want to tell me what, person at the mic, you want to tell us what? Cameron, that's right, I know Cameron. Cameron, you want to tell us what Onapeesee is?
The Onapeesee program is a program that provides federal funding from the Department of Education, similar to the Hispanic Serving Institutions and the Historically Black Colleges and Universities program. So it allows institutions funding to support students on their campuses.
Right, so you're able to develop programs that are specifically focused on these students. And it's a fairly new program, but it recognizes the fact that this type of funding that's directed at these schools that have a significant number of Asian American Pacific Islander students are critically important. I was actually out in this past December out in De Anza Community College where they have an Onapeesee program. And there you're seeing, first-time college students, people who are, for the first time graduating from college, the first to graduate from college in their family. And I think it's important to show that picture as well. And I know that there's this dynamic and this sentiment that exists. And I think a part of it is not just kind of from the perspective of the administration, because we're going to push across the board for accessibility for all students, is like really changing that dialogue on the outside and the dialogue that's taking place on campuses, that students and young people feel that they need to do those type of things and not identify who they are in order to get into college. So, go.
Hi. My name is Bellianne. I'm a senior at Columbia University. I wanted to ask, a lot of us are Asian Americans, and I'm personally wondering, what are the top maybe 3 things that the commission is most proud of on doing work relating to Pacific Islanders? I feel like they're never fully represented when we talk about AAPI.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to take that, Ramey, or I was saying, Commissioner? We do have a commissioner here. Absolutely. Ramey Coe. You want to go to
Ramey, do you mind talking to the mic?
Oh, for the live stream. Okay. Come up.
Yeah. You can go. Either way. Okay. So guys, this is Ramey Coe, another young and up-and-coming Asian American Pacific Islander, a judge in Austin, Texas. So we're really excited to have him here, and he's going to be here all day, right?
Yes, I'll be here all
awesome,
day.
great.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. I'm the youngest member of the commission, so I kind of consider students, sort of my constituency, and I really try to come out and make it to all these youth events. So it's great to see this big packed room here, and I hope there's a lot of people watching online. But in terms of Pacific Islanders, I can think of, let's see, there's been a number of great initiatives we've done. One of the great events we had was last year. We had in Los Angeles an event organized by one of our commissioners, Sefa Aina, who works at Pomona College, along with Kamuela Enos, who's another one of our commissioners from Hawaii. Hawaii. I got to make sure I pronounce that correctly. And it was this awesome Pacific Islander health and wellness and obesity awareness event. We had something like over 1,000 families come out to it. And we had Hines Ward, who's a member of our commission from the Pittsburgh Steelers. We had Troy Polamalu, NFL Defensive Player of the Year last year. Come out for that. We had Jillian Michaels, the celebrity trainer, come. Celebrity chefs come and teach people how to do healthy meals, how to cook in a great way for your children, how to do affordable cooking. That's also good for you. Workout, exercise. We have this great initiative that Ryan Edgar, who's one of our former staffers, just wrote a blog about. If you go to the White House Initiative blog, you can read about it. That's intended to help with people coming from Pacific Islands to the United States for work, and in terms of providing them better support, integration, opportunities with both any kind of legal issues and all sorts of other issues.
I can mention a couple others.
Okay,
too.
yeah.
I mean, my only thing to add to what Ramey is saying is that we actually have done some philanthropic briefings in Hawaii for Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, and the focus of that, we just held that actually earlier late part of last year. It's like 2012. Where we brought foundations to one of the largest Native Hawaiian conferences there to talk about the kinds of resources that are available in philanthropy. And this is really related to the fact that there tends to be an over-reliance on federal funding, right, and outside resources not coming into these communities. And we wanted to open the doors and really encourage people to come and see and be on the ground. And I have to tell you, when they were there, going to these Native Hawaiian immersion charter schools, talking to communities, Pacific Islander communities, it made such a difference, and now they're telling their colleagues to come down there as well. So in a lot of ways, we serve as kind of opening the door, shining the light on issues, whether it's talking about the health summit that we held with some of our commissioners. We have Deborah Cabrera, who's out in the islands, who's also promoting the work of the initiative in the administration. And so we'd love to talk with you more about, really, I mean, when I came on, I said very early on, because of the dynamics of Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders getting lost in the broader AAPI community, that I was going to make this a priority. And I feel through our staff, our commissioners, and the work that we've been doing our very best, and certainly we can always do better, and we always want to take the ideas and suggestions that you have. So I think it's a really important question. So thank you.
Data disaggregation.
Yes, data disaggregation. We'll have like a separate conversation about that. So I know that we have one more speaker, and then I know we have our next wonderful speaker here. So Cameron, do you want to take it off? And folks, we'll catch you on the second round of questions. So we're just going to take one more. Cameron, this better be a good one.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask specifically about the On the PC program.
Okay.
There are over 100 schools are eligible, but only about 15 have received funding. So I was wondering what the administration is doing to expand that program.
It's a good question, and it's a priority for us. I think, to be quite honest with you, what we're facing is just trying to maintain. A lot of these programs across the board are facing cuts, budget cuts. So right now we're kind of in a mode of preserving what we have versus thinking about how to really expand that program right now. But for the long term, we're making the argument that we have so many institutions, and this is really a testament to the growth of the AAPI community in this country, that are actually on a PCs, and they don't know it. So you should actually go back to your institution, especially a community college, especially community colleges. Many of them don't realize that they're on a PCs, to make the case that the funding program in Department of Education, we know, really does not meet the needs of the number of institutions that could qualify as on a PCs or AAPI serving institutions. We're also working with institutions to increase the number of institutions that have received the designation. We've also, recently I was out in California with a number of minority serving institution funders to also think about other resources going into these institutions. So we're trying to be creative about this process, realizing some of the limitations, but I have to tell you it is so critically important because these institutions play a really important role in the lives of our young people. So, I know it's not kind of what you wanted to hear, but just to know it is, on our radar, and it's something we're working very hard on. So thanks, Cameron. All right. Okay, we're ready to rock and roll. I am very proud to introduce our next speaker. If I can find my notes here. So anyway, we are really, really excited, and I hope that you are. We have the privilege of having Administrator Ross Shaw, who runs the USAID. Who's heard of the USAID? Right, who's interested in international issues? Okay, he's your guy. He's been in this esteemed role for a little more than 2 years. He's done other stints here in the administration, really high level, and also has worked for foundations. He has really been rocking the house since he's been here. So, I have to say he's a real true public servant, has accomplished a lot at a really young age. And so we're so excited because I really do believe he's such an inspiration to so many folks. So thank you so much, Raj.
Thank you.
We'll have him come on board.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Well, thanks very much. Thank you, Karen, for that kind introduction and for leading this great initiative. And I'll share a few thoughts on this initiative in a moment. I know John Carson was here earlier, and we'll potentially you'll see Chris Liu after me. So you have a great lineup today of people to speak with and engage with and learn from and teach. So that's wonderful. There are a few folks here from USAID, so if you are interested and excited in the work that we do and want to work with us more closely, Kate Beal, Lily Treenans, Sana Hussein, I don't see anyone. Keep your hands up. Oh, there you are. Good, good. There's Sana in the back and Lily over here, and Pooja Kadakia. Is she here, Pooja? No, okay. And I know there are folks watching on the live stream as well, so it's great to be with you. This initiative is really special. I remember back in the Clinton administration when it existed, this initiative being one of the few ways, if you were interested in politics and government and service, it was one of the things that made an otherwise very big and difficult to access government and political system accessible to students, to others around the world. And certainly in this country and in the AAPI community. And so when it disappeared under the prior administration, that was a real loss. And I'm so excited that it's back, and with all the great work that you and the commissioners are doing with it, it's a real treat. And I'm also excited that you're actually going to have a whole session on data disaggregation, because while that doesn't sound as sexy as some of the other topics, it actually wasn't until in the life of this initiative in the Clinton administration that people saw the numbers of where different AAPI populations were disaggregated by often congressional district, that they recognized that this is a strong and capable, large and growing community that has a huge amount to offer, not just to local politics and the elections that drive them, but also to the larger vision of where this country is going. And it was a lot of that early data that really powered that initiative there. So I'm glad you're putting some muscle into data disaggregation. Before I tell you about today's a sort of special day for a couple of reasons. I'm going to come to that. I wanted to just tell you a little story. When I was in college, I guess when I was in grad school, I was very, very interested, and I was in Philadelphia, very interested in being involved in politics. So I would volunteer in settings in Philadelphia for, at the time, Mayor Ed Rendell, who's since become a great friend and mentor. And you know, it was very hard to figure out how to engage in national politics and how to engage with the federal government. The federal government has often been very difficult to access and difficult to learn from. So we formed this little group that we called Project Impact for South Asian Americans, mostly on the East Coast, but it spread before long to other cities around the country. And one of the things we did that was a lot of fun, how many folks here are students? Oh, wow, okay, good, good, we're well represented, was we would bring groups of students to Washington. And we had different levels of students. So we'd bring, I know, are you mostly college and graduate schools? Yes? High schools? Any high school students here? Oh, good, okay. So we'd bring mostly, college and graduate students to Washington and introduce them to various leaders and department heads, and mostly through the initiative, and then they would get internships or opportunities to partner and participate with those that were doing things in government. But what was really, and that was fun, so I hope you get a chance to do that through all of this. But what was really fun was we had a program that brought 6th and 7th and 8th graders, mostly 6th and 7th graders, from middle schools to Washington. And we would take them around and show them just things that were publicly accessible, you know, tours of the Capitol, tours of the East Wing, a drive through town to point out some of the buildings. And it was just amazing to me, and a great reminder of how special Washington is and our government can be, to just see those young kids learn about things for the first time, really feel a sense of access when they had the chance to walk through the halls of Congress. I mean, anybody can walk through the halls of Congress, but people don't necessarily realize that because people don't often feel empowered to be part of their government in an active way. And so I want to congratulate you for going that extra mile, for being here today, for taking the extra steps to be empowered to be part of your government, because it won't be easy. But if you stay on that path and if you stay focused to that goal, you really have incredible opportunities to serve and change the direction of your communities and this country with the power of your ideas. In my personal case, For me, the entrance into kind of politics and government was leaving. When I completed medical school, I went to work on the Gore campaign. And are there any medical students here or people going to med school? No? Yeah, a couple. Okay, good. This will be relevant. So I finished med school, took my last set of boards, and drove to Nashville, Tennessee to volunteer on the campaign. And amongst the campaign volunteers, who were mostly younger high school students, I was the only one with a car. So my task for the first month was driving around the other volunteers to local libraries, to the airport, to other things that you would not think of as, linking your ideas to changing the course of your country. And in fact, there were times when I was sitting there thinking, boy, med school was awfully expensive for this. When I was wondering whether, is this really the best way to use a medical education? And thinking back to my medical school dean who told me that if I did in fact do this, I'd never practice medicine again, which turned out to be true. But I told him he was completely wrong and just didn't understand me and my special powers at the time. And so, but I have to tell you, it was that experience and muscling through the tough parts of that and then getting to see a political campaign in its both glories and in its unique failures was a unique experience. And I made some of my best friends through that experience. And the other campaign volunteer who would drive the other students around with me, he and I became very good friends. And that led to my next set of jobs. And it basically gave me a career path that ended up with my opportunity to serve in this role, which I just consider a dream come true for me and for what I've wanted to do with my life and my service. So I would just encourage you, because I think as you get engaged in this body of work, you may find that not every task is glamorous and not everything is akin to really feeling like you're empowered to create great change. But it is muscling through the tough parts that are perhaps going to be the most memorable and in some cases the most rewarding that'll get you to where you want to go. Today is a very special day for those of us at USAID and frankly those of us throughout this country and this government, because 2 years ago today, a devastating earthquake hit Haiti. And I was 6 or 7 days on the job when we heard the news about this. And frankly, in a moment, inside of a couple of minutes, more than 250,000 people lost their lives. And that's an extraordinary thing to contemplate. It's very, very difficult to understand what a number like that means. I had the chance with Secretary Clinton to visit Haiti about 2 days after the initial earthquake, as soon as we could kind of humanly get there, given the challenges at the airport that had been torn up and given the priority of getting the search and rescue teams there. And in fact, walking around and seeing what that devastation looked like and felt like in very human terms is something I'll never forget. But what I'll never forget as well is what President Obama did in that moment. He pulled together his entire leadership, his cabinet, his National Security Council, and he said that we were going to stand with the people of Haiti, and we were going to do so aggressively. And he directed a swift, coordinated, aggressive response to save as many lives as possible now, and to engage in a long-term partnership to help the people of Haiti rebuild. And he asked us to make sure, as we did this, to provide opportunities for the American public to be engaged in the effort. Because this wasn't just a government task. This was about American values, that when our friends and our neighbors have moments of need, we stand with them, because that's who we are. And in fact, more than half of all American families, more families than watched the Super Bowl, gave directly to the earthquake relief efforts in Haiti. And today, the 2-year anniversary, it's worth noting that, it's been a long, difficult process. There have been a lot of setbacks, a lot of challenges. All you have to do is look at the amount of time it took to clear the rubble from Manhattan for the 9/11 tragedy to understand what the challenges of 10 million cubic meters of rubble in Port-au-Prince, Haiti would mean. But in fact, in a partnership with the international community, in a partnership with the people and leadership of Haiti, under their leadership and their watch, we've achieved some real results. Today, more people have clean water and safe sanitation than they did before the earthquake. Today, there is an industrial park opening in March that'll have 80,000 new jobs over time. Today, we've tamped down this tragic cholera episode that killed thousands of kids to a level that's lower than the recommended level, target level set by the international disease control experts. And today, we're actually seeing real opportunity take hold, a growth rate of nearly 6% in Haiti. New companies like Marriott opening a hotel in Port-au-Prince, and other companies like from South Korea opening textile operations and creating hope and opportunity. And we've done a lot to bring a lot of what I'd call youthful innovation to the task. We've worked with, instead of just rebuilding basic banking infrastructure, we worked with mobile phone operators and private foundations like the Gates Foundation to create mobile banking systems. And it's probably going to be the case that Haiti will be one of the first, if not the first, countries in the world to have a fully integrated mobile banking system where people can access funds and make payments all on their mobile phones. I share that just to say that at times of tragedy and at times of suffering and at times when things look desperate, this government, this country, our partners around the world can often draw on innovative ideas, new resources, new technologies, and start to lay the groundwork for bigger and better things. And I can't think of any other example where the distance between that moment of tragic loss and the hopefulness that, that now is taking hold is so stark. And so I think one of the things that I hope you get out of today is a sense that your commitment, whatever you choose to do, whatever area of work you choose to go into, but if you stay committed, if you're willing to, drive people back and forth to the airport when need be, if you can find ways to engage your local communities and link them to the things that you care about, and if you can find ways to use your engagement with this initiative to connect your own hopes and aspirations to programs, internship opportunities, other ways that you can be connected to what we're doing in this administration, that you can be on a path to really help provide great service and link your unique ideas and the things that you have to offer to a larger common purpose. And in many ways, that's what this administration has represented for me. And it's what President Obama, I believe, represents for so many millions of Americans. And I just thank you for taking the extra steps for being here today, and look forward to taking a couple of questions perhaps before Chris, if Chris comes in 5 minutes. 5 minutes of questions before Chris joins us. So thank you very much. Any comments, questions, concerns? This wasn't a quiet group 10 minutes ago.
Hi there, how are you doing? My name is Richard Sun. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Richard, where are you from?
From New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had a question kind of back to what Karen said earlier, kind of getting Asian Americans more engaged, kind of increasing the dialogue. Kind of in light of recent events, how do you think we grow from the Danny Chen experience, the Danny Chen story? How do we think we take those lessons learned and take it as an opportunity for growth to kind of further Asian American engagement in public service rather than detract from it? Thank you.
Well, that's a tough question. I think I'll just say from in my own personal experience, and this goes back before this administration to this Project Impact Group. This was an all-volunteer operation. We had no money. We basically were a group of students that tried to get people to be more engaged. And what I was amazed by was how many people wanted to help us carry out that task. Some were elected officials who had a particular inclination to support that. Others were community leaders that were really paving the way. And so we actually launched a little awards ceremony to highlight people who were offering that kind of public service and leadership. Some were political leaders, some were business leaders. My favorite ones were, like the New York Taxi Drivers Association, or people like that actually do these extraordinary things, but we don't often get a chance to recognize their service and their leadership. And in that case, actually, we honored that group because they stood up against cases of violence against Indian or Pakistani American taxi drivers in New York, and did so with great courage and in difficult circumstances. So I don't know that I have an answer for you, other than to say that you'd probably be surprised at how many people from all walks of life would be eager to help you in that task. And if you are part of a student group or this initiative and its various tentacles out there, if you just reach out and talk about it with people of all walks, I bet they'll be more willing to help you in ways that you or I couldn't possibly imagine right now than you would imagine. And I always found that very inspiring, because you just keep getting more and more resources, more and more ideas, more relationships with which you can do things, and I hope that is what some of you will do.
Hi, I'm Steve Olikara, senior at UW-Madison, and I'm curious, when the AAPI initiative hears concerns from the community and tries to implement recommendations across the federal government, with USAID or State Department, for example, what that process looks like and some of the challenges you face as you're trying to implement those recommendations. And also just a quick question, when you went to work on the Gore campaign, what did your parents think about that?
I'll do the first one first, because it's easier.
Thank you.
Look, this initiative is part of the White House. So, and you're going to hear from Chris Liu in a moment, but when any guidance, any ideas, any directives that those of us in agencies get from the White House, we take incredibly seriously, as you would imagine, and aggressively work to implement. So if you have the opportunity to craft ideas about how we can be more effective at connecting with diaspora communities and promoting our work, in linking to universities and student groups to do recruiting for our hiring efforts, or in placing people in our missions around the world. And if that comes through the initiative, we implement it. We take it very seriously, we track it very carefully. And so in that sense, you're in an environment here that's very, very powerful if you use that influence to share your ideas. Oh, and the last question, and then I'll introduce Chris, is the honest answer is mixed. It's hard if you've invested, significant resources in and it's no shocker here. I'm Indian American, where I grew up in a community where if you could get into med school, you were sort of supposed to go, and then if you could become a cardiologist, you're supposed to do that. Luckily, I wasn't as good a medical student, so I didn't have to deal with that piece. But but it's new. It was new. It was new because my family came here without any. I assume this is a story that's common. My family came here without any resources, and my dad and my mom saved. We lived a comfortable but frugal approach to life when I was young. Very comfortable, but also saving money was a priority because they sent money back home to relatives and to communities, and that was sort of the priority. So the idea that you'd then spend significant resources on what looked like a safe and prosperous career, only to leave that to drive campaign consultants around in your borrowed vehicle, wasn't immediately a sell that they bought into. Even now, it's sort of have to remind them of what we're doing. No, but the reality is, I think everybody learns, everybody evolves, and certainly I think all of our communities and families take great pride in what this administration is doing. So being part of it is something that people are excited about. Thanks. So thank you for your time and for having me here. I'll introduce Chris Liu, who needs no introduction in this setting. Chris co-chairs this initiative, and as the head of cabinet affairs for this administration I was looking at his accomplishments, is basically part of everything good we've done as an administration. And I get the chance to work with Chris when he coordinates major efforts across agencies, and then we implement those directives at USAID. And I can just tell you that I know you probably all know that Chris and the president are classmates from law school and intellectual peers and colleagues, and so he has a lot of trust with the president. But I'll just tell you that I've always been impressed that the directives and the initiatives that come out of cabinet affairs to us are all consistent with the basic theme that is so easy to lose sight of in government of the original campaign, that we should be inclusive, that we should be opening up government to as many people and communities as possible, that we should stay true to the commitments and promises we made and deliver on them. And I'm glad to see that even 3.5 years or 3 years in, that sort of early energy continues to motivate what this administration is about. And you're very fortunate to have the chance to hear from one of our great leaders, Chris Lu. Chris.
Thank you all. I'm going to just say a few words and then I will invite the rest of the panelists up here. Raj will, of course, miss all the nice things I'm saying, but hopefully one of his staffers will tell him about it. There is literally no more dynamic, no more energetic leader in this administration than Raj Shah. As Raj just told you, 12 days after he was sworn in, we had the devastating earthquake in Haiti. And I remember seeing Raj and he was just ready. And he flew down there with his team, and he never stopped working. He's never stopped working since then. So we're lucky to have him. And when I hear his story and I hear about the great works he does, it reminds me of all the good that is possible in public service. And so he's a fantastic role model for all of us. And he's not just a AAPI leader, he's really a global leader. The only downside is whenever Raj and I speak or do these things, I always have to follow him, and it's not that easy to do. So let me just do this. First of all, welcome to the White House. After 3 years, it never gets old saying that. I will just tell you a quick story. And I've actually never told this publicly, so the fact this is live stream is kind of interesting. The first time I ever came to the White House was in 1985, and here's the little known secret that my staff doesn't know. I actually worked on President Reagan's re-election campaign. And they did a session like this to thank community leaders that had worked on the campaign. And so I was invited with a group of about 140 people and sat here and had the same kind of briefing. And then President Reagan showed up and thanked all of us. Unfortunately, I cannot promise you President Obama today. He's got a very, very busy schedule. But that visit to EOB, 26 years ago, seeing the president really inspired me to a career in public service. As Raj said, I kind of wear two hats around here. I serve as the White House Cabinet Secretary, and you are here at an exciting time in the administration. The president, in about a week and a half, will be giving his State of the Union address. He will lay out his vision for the next year, talk about his plan to create jobs, to provide greater security to the middle class. But a lot of people focus on that speech, and that's just the speech. What we do each and every day, what the president has done for the last 3 years, that commitment to growing the economy, that commitment to helping the middle class, is present in all that we do. Just over the last 2 weeks, as you may have seen, the president has appointed Richard Cordray to be the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That is an initiative we'll hear a little bit more about that in a second, but that will have dramatic effects on average Americans here in the country. Also, just yesterday, we held an all-day forum on insourcing and highlighting American companies that are bringing jobs back to the United States. We hear a lot about outsourcing, but there's really been an interesting trend of companies deciding to bring jobs back. So you see in every single day the work that we are doing. I am also here in a second role, which is, as Raj said, is the co-chair of the AAPI initiative. And I know Kieran has told you about the work we are doing. And we look forward to engaging with you through the initiative over the next year. I probably just dated myself when I said I was here during the Reagan administration, but I'll date myself one more time, which is that as of this morning, thanks to Kieran, I now actually have a Twitter account. So today will be an interesting experiment in social media. There literally are 0 followers. So we will find out by the end of the day how many followers there are. And to all the people watching live stream, it's Chris Liu 44, which is the president. We are in Chris Liu 44. And we'll be using that Twitter account, my Twitter account, Kieran's Twitter account, the initiatives, to tell you about the great work the initiative is doing, to tell you about the great work that AAPI leaders like Raj are doing, and just generally we'll be talking about the State of the Union, we'll be talking about the economy, we'll be talking about everything over the next year. So I hope you will. I think the word is follow me on Twitter, and I will, and we'll figure out a way to get used to all of you. So with that, let me invite our wonderful panelists to come up on stage, and we will have a discussion.